Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to another adventure in history. I'm the host, Shane McInnes. Welcome to lovely South Mississippi, where it is ridiculously hot and incredibly humid. Hello, everybody. Hello, Steph. Hello, Fid. How's it going? Hope everybody is doing A-okay. I've moved my computer around a little bit. Hope everybody has had a good week. It is Friday Eve, if that means anything to anybody. I have a 3-day weekend coming up, and I am super excited about that. Super excited about that. I cannot explain how excited I am about that. It's going. How's your day been? Honestly, this morning was pretty rough. I had a lot of sort of nasty emails that I had to dig through, and there's office politics going on, but I got to have spaghetti for dinner, which was nice, and then I followed that up with cobbler and ice cream. So the day has become drastically better. Drastically better, right? Any day that I can have cobbler and ice cream is a good day, right? um, I got the hankering last night, and you and cobbler, lol. Sorry, the rest of it was crappy. Yeah, yesterday afternoon, I got the idea about 6 o'clock. It was about 5 o'clock. I decided that I really wanted buffalo wings. Hey, Kyle. So I ordered out and got buffalo wings, and Brittany and I ate way too many buffalo wings. And then I didn't get all the way full, which is crazy because, I mean, we were totally gluttonous last night. No joke. Absolutely ate way more than we should have. And then I just wasn't hungry. I'm sorry, I wasn't full. I was like, man, I still kind of want something else to eat. And it had already hit like 7:30, and I'm not supposed to eat past about 7 o'clock. I'm on it's not like a firm diet, but I try not to eat after 7 o'clock or before 10 o'clock in the morning. It's intermittent fasting. It's actually helped me lose some weight. So I don't try to screw around with it if it's working. But man, I was still hungry, and Brittany's like, "It's not too late. I mean, you just get some cereal or something." I was like, "I want cobbler," and she's like, "We can make cobbler." So boom, we had some leftover dewberries and some blueberries from the bushes outside. So we made mixed berry cobbler. It was amazing. Ugh, so good, so good. No such thing as too many wings. There can be too many wings. Hello, Ian Witt. I wonder if I know who you are, Ian Witt. Do I know you personally in real life? I will not expose your true identity. Your super jelly. You want cobbler? Mixed berries. Yeah, it was very tasty. Very, very good stuff. So, welcome everybody to Adventures in History, the show where we do our best to talk about stuff that's maybe been boring in the past, and make it not boring, because history is just a bunch of people doing dumb stuff, and we get to talk about some really cool stuff tonight. Some of my favorite history: the Achaemenid Persians, Cyrus the Great, Cambyses, Darius. Hey, Grethar, how's it going? Grethar, you have mail coming in your direction. We sit that stuff out. I hope everything comes well. I tried to put some cardstock inside the envelope so that in its long voyage from Mississippi to your location, it stays safe. I hope it gets to you safe, my friend. And speaking of, we do have a giveaway for tonight. This is in recognition of last week's episode. Of course, we discussed the collapse of Assyria, and we talked about how things after the Assyrians had fallen apart, and we talked about the the re-independence of Egypt, and there is a particularly fun story dealing with a bad Egyptian pharaoh named Apries and his general, a guy named Amasis, who was being kind of messy. The story goes that Apries had recognized that Amasis was becoming very, very popular and had told him that he had to go do some stuff or and send back all of this stuff to the pharaoh, all of this loot and all of this money. And Amasis basically farted in his hand and said, "Here," to the messenger, "you take this back to the pharaoh, and this is what you get." So, taking that great little story into stride, my wife has once again gone out of her way to make a beautiful little piece of art. And what we have here is Adventures in History, recalling episode 21. And we have Apries sitting on the throne over here. And we have Amasis having a little bit of a fart and giving him the finger. So we will be giving this away at the end of the stream. So hang on. It's going to be a good one. My wife, by the way, incredibly intelligent, very, very talented, and spends probably more time than she should making awesome little giveaways for the stream. So we'll give that one away at the end. I want to keep all of these, by the way. It pains me. It's like giving away some stuff. My wife is awesome. Joey, you also have mail coming to you, and I hope that I have also packed it in such a way that it gets to you safely. I will say this, I really do appreciate everybody coming out. I look forward to this so much in my week, the opportunity to hang out with you all and talk history and make goofy jokes and goof around a little bit. It has really become an important part of my mental health, and I really do appreciate you all. Thank you all so much for coming out. Tell your friends, tell everybody. Hey, Kelly, how's it going? Everybody go follow Kelly Howlett. I don't think I say this enough. Kelly does great art. You reference the hieroglyphs, so it might be an ancient curse. Oh, alrighty then. You might have... well, I guess I could probably translate that if I really wanted to, but we won't bother with that. So go follow Kelly. She does great art. She sent me a postcard. Oh, I should show the postcard. I need to go run and get a postcard. Hold on, I'll be right back. It'll take like 2 seconds. Okay. Ironically, or maybe not ironically, but kind of funnily, me running through the house has set the puppy out on woofing. So Kelly sent me this, which is amazing. It's a postcard that she painted on, and it's a cassette tape. And it is from a mixtape that's from her made-up band with her and her friend that they actually made music for. How great is that? So, cool artwork from Kelly Howlett. Go give her a follow. She's cool. Her stream is awesome. I give it 2 thumbs up. So, there's that. I always try to make sure that I show stuff off. Twitch friends. Cheers, Kelly. I hope everything's going well with you and your teaching. I hope everybody's having a good one. I know that the times are rough, and I have been really, really trying lately to work on my perspective, because things are so much better now than they could be. Even though it's rough, and it's okay to recognize that it's rough, and it's even okay to not feel like you're doing like the absolute best that you could be doing. Life is pretty rough right now, especially compared to ourselves. But if we look in perspective, there are a lot of other people that have it worse And there are a lot of other people in history that have it way worse. So I've been working on that a lot lately, and I know I've mentioned that a few times here on stream. So headspace is important, and thinking about that stuff the right way is important. So welcome to everybody. I guess let's talk about a little history. Anybody have anything off the top? Anybody want to... Sadly, after my vacation is over the next week, I won't be able to catch your streams live until I get back to the evening shift at some point. Oh, yeah, I saw that in David's stream the other day, Grethar. We will raise a glass of water to you in memory. Please feel free to still hang out on the Discord. I know that hasn't been very active lately, but we can... I hope that we can get some more people and some more traction going on over there. I really do like the idea of this being a community, and this being a group of people that are bound together, not necessarily by geographical boundaries, but by ideological ones. That sounds really culty. This is not a cult, I promise. This is not the cult of the adventure hat. Don't go out and worship the adventure hat, though it is pretty cool. I do love it. You'll watch the VODs while you can't be there live. And feel free to send questions and stuff like that too, if you need. So anybody have anything off of the top? This is not a cult sounds like something a cultist would say. It does, doesn't it? It's not a cult. It's not a cult, I promise. All hail the adventure hat. Oh man, you guys. Cult of the opinion hat. Oh, now we have like we have competing factions. Adventure hat versus opinion hat, and they butt bills. Okay, so anybody want to do any points off the top? Remember that there are lots of options for adventure point spending. I might go through and weed some of those out. Some of them have very little traction. Your team adventure hat. Like the impressions, I don't think they've gone over very well, and that's okay. I mean, I'm not like expecting all of these to be, home runs. I think I've only done some of these once or twice. And that might be that I've ranked them too expensive. If that stuff is too expensive, let me know. I'd be happy to change the values. I just want people to be able to interact, right? That's the whole goal of that stuff, is to be able to, feel like you're a part of the stream. And you all are a part of the stream. I really do appreciate that. You're saving your points? Okay. You're going to drop a 10K on me and buy a viewer request. Oh, speaking of, I'm going to do something that's a little bit out of the ordinary. We normally take every other weeks to do viewer requests, but since Kilted Preacher dropped that 10K on me and requested the KGB history, I'm going to go ahead and do that Tuesday. So we will have sort of a bonus viewer request stream next Tuesday. So we had 2 streams this week, and we normally would only have 1 next week and then 2 the next week. But we're going to do 3 viewer request weeks in a row. So, and then after that, we'll do Metallurgy, which was the last one requested. I've already got a start on that. I think that's actually going to be a lot cooler than I thought it was initially. So, a little extra for you there. Maybe we can build up a bit ahead of steam and give Grethar an extra episode before he has to go back to working day shift. So there's that cool thing. All right, let's talk a little bit about history. So we left off last time talking about how Assyria had blown up and how the Babylonians had taken over most of the territory, and then the Babylonians ended up fighting with the Egyptians. Going to have to go watch the Hellgate one. Yeah, that one actually turned out really well, except for the beginning. Like, the first 30 minutes of that stream is a mess. Comcast was jacking around with our internet, and I had to start the stream like 4 times or 5 times or something like that. But once it starts going, actually went off pretty well. Got a host on that one. It was a good stream on Tuesday. So we were talking about this collapse of Assyria and the subsequent rise of other empires around them. So let us take a moment to look at a map that basically gives us the state of things at the beginning of this discussion. And I know this is really tiny, and I apologize for the size. I know you're probably not going to be able to read it very well, but I'll point at stuff, and hopefully that is going to assist. So at the end of the last stream, Egypt had once again become independent. It was down here hanging out. We had the Lydians, who I feel like I probably should have made a stream about. I feel like I probably had enough information to do a stream on those guys, but I didn't, and now it's kind of too late. So here's the Neo-Babylonian Empire, the Chaldean Empire, and then we have this big honking thing over here, which is the Median Empire. And you go, who are the Medes? Well, that's a great question, and that's sort of where we're going to have to start off tonight, because things are a little bit messy in the world of that side of the territory. So where we're talking about today on the map is going to be mostly in this region over here, which is modern day country of Iran. This sort of home of Persia is right down in this region down here. And we're going to have to sort of deal with all of these other political entities around the area. You know, Shane, there are plugins for Google Earth with historical borders. There are. And I've tried playing around with a couple of those, and I haven't necessarily found one that I like very much. This is probably because I am a bit of a stickler for things, and people get a little squirrely when they draw lines. I should probably give that another shot, though. Another one of my history friends, the guy that actually started sort of pushing me to use Google Earth to begin with, one of my grad school professors, he mentioned that to me a couple of weeks ago, that he had a new one that was put out by maybe University of Connecticut or something like that. Some mapping project that their geography and history department did together. So I'm going to have to check that back out. I'll make myself a note of that. And go through and look. Some of the stuff that I've found has been very, very amateur, and I don't know where they're basing their data off of. Ancient maps for Google. Check that out on probably Monday. I have the day off of work from Monday for Labor Day. I'm actually thinking of like completely tearing down OBS and rebuilding all of this kind of from scratch. I'm getting a little frustrated with how finicky some things have become over time. So it might be a good time to go ahead and check that out. Thanks, Joey. Appreciate the reminder for that stuff. So the world is a bit crazy. And we haven't really talked specifically about who the Persians are, so let's back up a little bit and actually talk about the origins of the Persians. And they show up, historically speaking, somewhere around 1000 BC. And they sort of move into this kind of region over here over time. And they show up first as semi-nomadic pastoralists, people that, herd sheep and goats and cows and stuff like that. And they sort of migrate down into this south central Iranian region. And they're going to take up residence at a city called Parsis. And you could probably guess where Persian comes from. It actually comes from Parsis. And they weren't really a sort of unified power for quite some time. They are going to be under the control of first the Assyrian Empire, and then later, once Assyria falls apart, this larger Median Empire. But we can tell that it doesn't take them very long to start playing in the larger game, right? They start being movers and shakers in the world. And we can tell this because of how frequently they pop up in older texts, especially once the Assyrians start having trouble with them. The Medes and the Persians end up kind of forming an alliance and deciding that they want to take down Assyria. And in 612 BC, they actually sack Nineveh, the capital of Assyria, which is sort of the end of the last gasp of the Assyrian Empire. They're also going to get aid from those Scythian people. If you'll remember, we talked about the Scythians, who are a group of kind of horse people. Not that they're half horse, half people. They're not centaurs, right? They are a horseback riding people group that is scattered out around this northern coast of the Black Sea. I can zoom in a little bit here and give us a little bit more detail. So Parsis is right about here. Centaurs, that's where the Greeks get it from, right? But the Scythians are going to be right around this border. Arcadian is late, but they enter the classroom quietly and find an empty seat to claim. No problem, Arcadian. Welcome, my friend. Welcome. You can come in loudly if you want to. You can just drop a bad pun and then run away from it. Hope your day is doing all right, my friend. Hope your day is well. So the Scythians and the Persians and the Medes all sort of gang up on the Assyrians when they're weak. And that's going to sort of give the Medians the leg up. And you're going to see the Medes and the Persians showing up a lot together, especially in artwork that you see from either the Assyrian world or the Babylonian world. You're going to see Medes and Persians very closely tied together a lot. And this is because, again, they were very closely allied, but also they're from the same sort of region. So what we actually see here is a relief sculpture. And here, with the sort of round, bulbous, pot-looking helmet, we have a Median who's armed with a long spear and this sort of short sword here and a shield on the side. And here we have a Persian who has a different neat little kind of square hat, also a spear and a bow quiver here. But this is in the same relief. And again, you know, these people are pothead. Oh man. The Medians weren't really that laid back. They might be more like the paranoid version. What's the version of pot? Why are we always talking about pot? No adventure hat? No, I haven't actually seen these. This is in a relief that is in Iran, and going to visit Iran is probably not the best thing for me to do right now. I would love to go to Iran. There's so much cool stuff out there. But the Medians or the Medes are going to end up taking over a big chunk of what used to be the Assyrian Empire. And their map looks a lot like this. So they have this sort of big chunk of Central Asia. They have the southern part of Iran right here, which is where Parsis is. They have the northern bank of the Tigris, and they extend all the way over here into Anatolia. You already had yours, Steph, so leave them for the rest of us. There are enough bad puns to go around. Everybody is welcome to as many free puns as you can. Let's see. Auburn Chick, thanks for this for the follow, and welcome to the stream. This is Adventures in History. I'm Shane McInnes, and we're talking about the ancient Persians, the Achaemenids. If you have any questions, feel free. If you want to make goofy puns, you are more than welcome to. If you want to make sarcastic pop cultural comments, also very much welcome. This is not a history lecture. This is a fun discussion between friends. But it's history related, so that's what I think anyway. So let me go back over here. These, again, are the Medes. And they have a pretty big empire, including our buddies, the Persians. But as time goes on, it becomes pretty clear that the Medes are not all that they're cracked up to be. Their empire is big, and it's got a lot of different people in it, and it doesn't last very long. it actually only lasts a little bit more than 100 years or so, which, you know, in the scheme of history is a blip. But I mean, it's a pretty substantial. I'm sorry, I should probably type this stuff out. They are the Medes. 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 Ancient fart jokes also welcome. We almost always end up talking about poo or farts or snack cakes or food. Oh, been holding those in a long time. Oh, is the Mediterranean named after them? No. No. Mediterranean means like in between the earths, or in between the lands. Basically between the lands. Terrain like terrain. That's a good question, though. They don't actually ever get all the way over to the Mediterranean. They have a lot more interest down here on the Persian Gulf and in the Indian Ocean, especially this sort of region right in here between India and the Arabian Peninsula. This region is going to be big. It's very important. A lot of people don't talk about the Indian Ocean very much in history. It's a lot more important than people think it is, or maybe you know it is. I don't know. I'm just the guy with the magical pieces of paper that say I know things, right? Anyway, so the Persians are going to be vassals of the Medes, and the Medes are going to start a big war with the Lydians, that other group of people that we showed earlier. They live over here in Anatolia or Turkey. I think the map you're showing... Oh, I can show it again. Boom! There we go. So this is the country of the Medes. Mediterranean here. Greece and Crete and Cyprus. And this is Turkey and Black Sea and Caspian Sea, Persian Gulf. Cool. Yeah, and if you all ever want to see the photos again, you can just say, hey, show that photo again. I'll be more than happy to. They're here for your benefit. And also so that you don't have to look at this the whole time. Because honestly, this isn't hitting on very much. So they're going to help the Medes take out the Lydians. This is a pretty big and brutal war. The Lydians are actually pretty rough. And they kind of fight to a little bit of a standstill. And the Lydians don't get completely taken over, but they get thumped pretty big. The Medes do have to go back home. And around this period of time is when the Persians are really, really going to start showing their sort of their gumption, their desire to be players in the ancient world. And they're going to start kind of telling the leadership of the Medes that they want more of the pie, right? They're a vassal, yes, and they're still part of the larger Median Empire, but they're not happy with just being sort of second rate. They want to be part of the decision-making process. It got your lovely wife, though, or is she just in it for the money? Oh, gosh, no, she's not even in it for the money. My wife settled for me like crazy. I'm a good salesman. I have a little bit of charisma, and I guess she was just tired of looking and settled on me. My wife is much better looking than I deserve. And I don't just say that because I'm on stream. I say that to her all the time. So mind control too. If I had the Force, I would be much more successful, I feel. I would also be a Sith in about 5 minutes. In the midst of this whole thing, the leadership of the Persians, there is a king of the Persians, and he is going to approach the king of the Medes and say, look, we're friends, we're allies, but I want to be involved. I want to be in the game. And the Medes, after their war with the Lydians, were not necessarily in a very big, kind of strong position. So they kind of had to bend over backwards and make the Persians happy, or they're going to be facing a really big civil war.
So what happens is that the king of the Medes marries his daughter to the son of the king of the Persians. And now what that means is that any potential grandchild is going to be the heir to both kingdoms. And that grandchild is a guy named Cyrus. Cyrus is born somewhere around 600 BC. And his mother was the princess of the Medes, and his father was the king of the Persians. And this is a little bit different than just a regular old vassal, right? You don't marry your heir to a vassal. The guy that freed the Jews, same guy. We are getting there soon. So when Cyrus is growing up, he grows up under the vassaldom of his grandfather. And you can tell from the sources that we have, and we do have a lot of written sources from this time. We actually know a strikingly large amount about the history of this period. We know that Cyrus was not happy with sort of taking the back seat because his uncle was going to end up ruling in Media, while Cyrus was going to sort of get shuffled off as just king of Persia. But he doesn't like that idea. And when his father dies and he becomes king of the Persians, he is really not comfortable with this sort of second level leadership. And his grandfather, who is still the king of the Medes, recognizes that Cyrus has got ambition, and he sort of plays this the wrong way. He calls Cyrus up, and he forces Cyrus to take the vow of vassaldom. So he basically forced his grandson to swear allegiance to him. And this was not necessarily uncommon in the ancient world, but based on the power balance between the Medes and the Persians, this was kind of a slap in Cyrus's face. It was not something that is really going to sit well with either Cyrus or the Persian leadership. And it starts to kind of irk Cyrus a lot. And Cyrus goes back home to Persia, and he starts talking to people. And he starts asking some of these other vassals of the Medes if they're really happy. Like, do you like the arrangement that you currently have with the Medes? Do they treat you the right way? Are they taking care of you? Are they abusing your relationship? And what he finds out is that a lot of people had this same sort of like uncomfortable relationship with the Medes. And Cyrus starts politicking behind the back. And he puts together this giant coalition of Median vassals, these people that had sworn allegiance to the king of the Medes. And the deal is, you put me on the throne of the Medes because, you know, I'm the heir eventually, and then I'll make better deals with you. And so this is going to start a war between Cyrus and his grandfather. And it's a pretty bad one. It doesn't last too terribly long, but it's really, really violent. There are lots of big battles. This population of the region is very, very high, and they have lots of soldiers that they can draw on. And of course, the Median Empire is large, right? It stretches all the way over into Turkey and all the way over into Central Asia. So they've got a big population that they can pull from. So it's a kind of a slugfest. But what ends up happening is that Cyrus gets into the capital city. The capital city of the Median Empire is called Ecbatana. And he breaks into the capital, and he is going to claim the throne of the Medes. But the Median nobility is very, very upset with this because they don't want to be ruled by a Persian. And he reminds them, I'm half you, right? This is my granddad, your king. I have right to claim the throne. And they're like, yeah, but you're not the heir. You are not the next in line. There's a generation between you and the king. And he's like, okay, fine, check this out. and he marries his aunt, which is kind of weird. Yeah, it's kind of weird stuff. But what this does is it puts him like as the next male relative in the line of his grandfather, which makes him basically the king of media. And now he's the king of media and the king of Persia. And there's this big kind of like mass cringe in the media nobility. They're like, he did what? Yeah, Game of Thrones much? Exactly. Right. Like, aren't they related? What's really interesting is that when he pushes his grandfather off the throne, everybody expects that he's going to kill his granddad. Everybody expects that the humiliation of making him take this vow in front of all of the nobles was going to make Cyrus ticked off enough that he kills his granddad. But in true magnanimous fashion, Cyrus pardons his grandfather and does not kill him. And he sort of keeps him around for the next couple of years. His granddad was very, very old at that point. He died just a few years after this. But this also sort of gives the people of media this idea like, maybe this guy isn't so bad. He just kind of has weird marriage tastes. Being related didn't seem to matter much in the past. Yeah, keep it in the family, right? So he doesn't kill his granddad. He's now king of Persia and king of Media. And he has his eyeballs on some far places that we haven't really talked about much. Most notably this place called Sogdia, which is a region that we have not spoken about, I don't think, at all in this in the stream so far. But Sogdia is right over here. And it's in the region today that I call the Stands. I don't know how many people are familiar with all of the Stands, but if you are familiar with the Stands, this is Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan, and Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, and Kazakhstan. All of the Stands, right? So right over in here, you have Sogdia. And this area was becoming important because of the growth of one big empire that we have talked about, and that is China. So this is when Zhou Dynasty China is really sort of hitting its stride, and they are exporting a lot of silk that is moving its way over into Central Asia, and that's going to be something that Cyrus wants to get his hands on. This trade goods coming out of China, trade goods coming out of India, these are going to be things that are going to make him money. So he wants to hold this region and keep it in his country for tax purposes. Trade makes money, right? Most royals today are related to each other. Oh yeah, like the noble houses of Europe are not really family trees. They're more like family hedges. And I try to explain that to my students in class, and it gets them all creepy. Like one of my favorite examples is that before World War I, the King of England, the Kaiser of Germany, and the Tsar of Russia were all first cousins. And they had grown up together playing around during the summer, and then they're going to beat each other senseless in World War I. Rank 3 things. Oh. Byzantines, Ottomans, and Romans. Oh, so this is a good one. Okay. There are multiple ways to rank these. If I'm going to rank them by which ones that I like the most, if I'm going by pure preference, I would have to rank them probably Romans, Ottomans, Byzantines. But now if we're going to rank them by power compared to the other cultures around them at the time, you're probably going to have to go Ottomans, Romans, Byzantines. And if you're going to go with size of territory that they conquered, you're going to have to go Ottomans, Romans, Byzantines. So there are lots of ways to go there, but if I had to pick my favorite, like if I got to choose these to study, and I could study them based on this three, my favorite would be the Romans, absolutely, hands down. Then the Ottomans, then the Byzantines, and that's not an insult to the Byzantines. I quite like the Byzantine Empire. Especially the early Byzantine Empire in the region that we call late antiquity. So rulers like Justinian and Heraclius, Maurice, those guys are awesome. And the empire, as it's facing Muslim expansion, that's really, really cool stuff. Some of the later things, the kind of the Byzantine politics of stuff where the Byzantine Empire is constantly stabbing each other in the back and falling apart from the inside, that is interesting, and I've studied it in the past, but it's not necessarily my favorite. Who of them had the best gods? Oh, I don't know if I can answer that question or not. That's going to get really tenuous, because are we talking about the original Roman gods, or are we talking about the kind of well-known established Roman gods, or are we talking about Rome after it converted to Christianity? And then are we talking about like Catholicism from Roman Catholicism part, and we're going to distinguish that from Byzantine Catholicism after the schism? That gets tricky. And then when we're talking about the Ottomans, are we going to talk about their version of Islam? That's sticky. That's sticky. Oh, goods. Which of the Roman goods too? Because they borrowed some. Yeah. The Romans had an entire ritual to literally steal gods from their opponents. It's called an invocatio, and they would invite or invoke the gods of these other people to come switch sides to the Romans. Like, those people that are worshiping you stink. You should let us worship you. Come to our side, Magna Mater. Rank three things: Merca, or Merca. Merca. I don't like that version. The version that people use a lot is like this, Merca. I don't really like that. I prefer, if I get to type it myself, I like to type it like this, Merca. So it's just two syllables, Merca. Good times. I do quite like living in the United States. It has its problems, but it has its upsides. I would live somewhere else. I don't have a problem with a lot of other places. And now you go, well, where do you have problems with? Let's not go there. Maybe that's for the opinion hat later on. Okay, so Cyrus takes over. Oh, I forgot to show you. I have pictures of Cyrus. Let's look at Cyrus. Dun, 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 dun. Boom! There we go. Cyrus the Great. That's like the biggest Omega brain move right there. Converting people's gods to your culture rather than your culture to your god. Right, exactly. We'll just steal your gods. You think you're cool, we'll steal your gods. So this is Cyrus, and we see him here with wings. And these wings are the wings of a genie, or an angel, a seraphim. And this is sort of hinting at Cyrus being kind of a, maybe not necessarily a divine figure, but definitely one that has the favor of the gods, or perhaps some sort of divine dispensation to rule. He's a cool guy. He's got lots of stuff going on. So when Cyrus takes over, he takes over Persia first by birthright, then he takes over Media in a war, and then he has his eyes set on Lydia as well. He takes Sogdia, and he finishes wrapping up his Sogdian campaign in 539 BC. And then he's going to look at Lydia, that little country that's over in Anatolia. And the Lydians are not going to take this lying down. While Cyrus's armies are over in Sogdia fighting, the Lydians are going to sort of take the opportunity. So Cyrus has his armies over in this part of the world fighting, and the Lydians over here in Anatolia are going to see an opportunity to sort of expand into this region. They're going to say, oh, well, the Median Empire, or the Empire of the Medes, fell apart, so all of the land that they controlled should be up for grabs, right? This is sort of a sneaky wink at, oh, well, that guy doesn't control this area anymore, so we can control it. And it's also very, very, convenient that Cyrus has his army over by the side of India, 1,000-something miles away. But the Lydians are going to really, really hope that they can sort of move quickly and move with enough force to kind of punch out their own little chunk of territory and be able to hold on to it once Cyrus sort of collects himself and gets back over there. But this is going to turn out to be harder than they thought. So Cyrus recognizes what the Lydians are doing, and he does send an army out to try to stop them. But it turns out that the Lydians had some help, especially from some horseback people called the Cimmerians, and the horses were giving Cyrus's troops a lot of trouble. And this is where one of my favorite stories from Cyrus's life happens. The army that he sends over to Lydia gets checked, and they're in a stalemate between the fronts, and he can't really beat them up because they have this sort of horse superiority. And he kind of gathers his advisors around, and he goes, how are we going to deal with these Lydian horses? They're giving us a lot of trouble. They're causing us to lose more men than we want to. How do we take care of them? And one of his advisors goes, I have an idea. We'll use the stench of our camels. That's right. The stench of our camels, and we will use it as a weapon. And Cyrus, I could just see Cyrus like sitting at this table. He's got maps spread out in front of him, and he's got all of his advisors around there, and his army had just been defeated, and he's kind of like stinging from this loss. And he looks up at this guy, and he's like, your idea is that camels are stinky? Like, okay. Yeah, I know they stink, but how is that going to help us? And so his advisor tells him, he's like, look, we'll put all of these dromedary camels in the front of our army, and we will run people like camelback riders. We'll run the camels at the Lydian horses. And because the camels stink so bad, the Lydian horses will get afraid and they'll run away from the camels because of the stench. Yeah. And they go, okay, let's roll the dice on stinky camels. And would you believe that the stinky camel tactic works? The stinky camel tactic works like gangbusters. They roll up the Lydian cavalry. That's some out-of-the-box thinking, yeah. Yeah, it works like crazy. They roll up the Lydian army, they take over the entire Lydian world, and they end the Lydians as an independent country. And it's not even close after that. Like, they roll these guys up like they're throwing out the garbage. It is hilarious. I love this so much. Like, who thought that camel stink is a tactical weapon? But it is, and it worked wonders. These guys are going to be able to take over all of Anatolia by the 540s, and they're going to start expanding down into the world of Phoenicia. So they take all of this territory over here, and they're going to start expanding down into the Levant region. So let me give you kind of an image. I found Hey, Cryomera, you just missed camel stink. What were the logistics of camel stink? So very briefly to recap Cryo, we're talking about the expansion of Persia. They're beating the junk out of everybody, and they're having trouble taking over these people called the Lydians because the Lydians had this really good like horseback archery stuff. And so they beat the Lydians because one of Cyrus's generals suggests that they run camels at the horses because camels stink so bad that the horses will get afraid and run away. And it works. It works. FYI, when you talk about Lydia, I imagine the thrall from Skyrim kicking the crap out of the Persian army single-handed. Stinking Camels is a great name for a punk rock band. I'll take it. We're the Stinking Camels. Welcome, Cryo. Everybody go follow Cryomera. Super chill, awesome artist, lovely person. Go check out Cryomera. So at this point, once Lydia is defeated by the power of Stinky Camels, this is what Cyrus's army and territory looks like. So he has conquered... Don't follow. I'll get hyper and ruin the chat. No way. Go follow. Now we have to do it. Now we have to see if we can see hyper cry. That'd actually be funny. Anyway, so here's what it looks like. We've got the Persian Empire. We've got Parthia, Bactria, Gandhara, Persia, Media. We've got Armenia. We've conquered all of Lydia. Now we've got two big people left. We've got the Babylonians here, and we've got the Egyptians. So guess who they go after? It's time to take on Babylon. And Babylon is not easy. Babylon is very big, and it's got a very big population. Summon the Cryo. I love the little summoning hands. My favorite one, I don't know if it'll let me use all of my emotes here. Can I? No. Anyway, my favorite thing to do with the... Dad dang it. Work. Go away. Close. Now I can't see my chat. There we go. Oh, is that one of 8PM's? Yeah. 8PM's great too. You should go follow 8PM. My favorite thing to do is a summoning hand with the little corgi derp between them. So it's like a demonic corgi, because that image just trips me out. I like it a lot. Good times. So Lydia is no more. Sorry, Lydia. Boop and bye bye. The new enemy is the Babylonians. So how is Cyrus going to take over the Babylonians? With the stench of camels. No, actually not the stench of camels. The first thing that Cyrus is going to do when he starts picking a fight with Babylon is the same sort of thing that he did when he took over Media. He goes to all the people that are like the vassals of the Babylonians, and he's like, hey, do you guys like the Babylonians? And they're like, heck no, we don't like these guys. They're going wacko, and they're like stealing all of our stuff and deporting all of our people. We want to get rid of these guys. And the emperor of the Babylonians at the time is this dude named Nabonidus. So we got Cyrus. Ooh, I don't need to strike out anymore. Cyrus is still here. Cyrus. And he's going to be fighting a Babylonian emperor named Nabonidus. Such great names. Always with the great names in history, right? So the first thing that Cyrus does is convinces Elam to come over to his side. Elamites, big group of people. This puts Babylon in a pretty bad spot. Babylon is located right about here. And Elam sits right about here. So that's basically their back door. And that puts the Babylonians in a really bad spot because they're going to have to fight the Persians basically on three sides, which is never good. And it does not take long. Dun, 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 dun. Thanks, Tim Stonks. And welcome to the show. I'm Shane. Nabonidus sounds like a syndrome. Inflammation of the Nabo. Tim, always feel welcome to comment, make jokes, ask questions. We are all friends. We're here to chat, goof around, make pop cultural references. Man, my nabo's acting up really bad right now. What's wrong? I've got nabonitis. My nabonitis is acting up again. You kids, make my nabonitis act up. Oh, good times. Good times. Standing in a dry line, good times. I love that show. Anyway, sounds good. You're a history buff, mostly Roman stuff. We're coming to the Romans. We have established Rome. At this time period, chronologically, they're under the kings, and we left them last under the dominion of the Etruscans. But we'll get back to Rome. Never fear, my friend. We shall get back to Rome. And we will spend so much time there. Random history fact, the Scythians. Fun thing about the Scythians, they're big and they're successful because they run away. And you think, how are you successful if you run away? And the answer is, if you run away, they can't kill you. And you go like, well, that makes sense. But how do you beat them back? Well, the answer is you're on horseback, and when they're chasing you, you run around behind them and you shoot them in the back with your really cool bows and arrows. Scythians. We'll actually talk a little bit more about them in just a moment, because Darius has a big old trouble with them. Yeah, lots of tactical geniuses tonight. I love the ancient world, man. Love this stuff. Okay, so Nabonidus ends up getting whipped, and he ends up surrendering in 539. And at that point, Cyrus has so much territory because he takes over all of the Babylonian territory. Random history fact, 10 of 10. Glad to be of service. I hope that those adventure points were well spent. Let me show you what Cyrus's empire looks like when he's done, because it's a big old honkin' chunk of territory. Boom. All of this. And this is, and I'm not exaggerating here, and I'm not being hyperbolic at all, when Cyrus is at his height, which we're looking at right here about 530 BC, he is ruling the biggest empire that the world has ever seen. He is the most powerful ruler on the face of the earth. Famous camels of history. Okay, let me switch back over real quick, because you might be joking and you might not think that I have a famous camel of history story. Oh, but I do. There is a really great place that you're going to get a bonus free adventure hat on this one, because I've been there. There is a really cool border fort in Jordan, the country, modern day country of Jordan, right over here. I'll throw up the modern border so that we know what we're looking at. Free adventure hat. That's right. So over here in Jordan, right around in here, there is a border fortress, and it's from the Roman period, so it's Tim Stonks. This is also kind of like hitting on your world. The Romans had a very systematic version of their military. They were like broken down into these little groups, and those groups were bigger groups. And when you went out to the field, they had their camps set up the right way, all of this stuff. But there were these specific types of soldiers in the Roman army called auxilia. And that's where we get the word auxiliary. And the auxilia were allowed to fight in their native way, right? So the Romans always, like if you were an official Roman soldier and you were fighting for the Roman army, you fought the way that they told you to, with the weapons that they told you to, with the armor that they told you to. But in some of these weird border areas where they were really, really far out and didn't have a lot of sort of supplies, or it was hard to get stuff out there, they would recruit these groups called auxilia, and you could fight the way that you wanted to. And one of the units stationed at this particular border fortress in Jordan was a camelback archer division. And it's great because they left graffiti on this big stone, and they were like, I can't remember the exact number, but it's something like the 71st or 74th Auxilia, the dromedaries. She married you for the free adventure hats. It makes sense now. So there is a famous Camels of History story for you with the free adventure hat. For those of you new to the stream, this is the adventure hat. It is the hat that I wear when I go out into the field and do archaeological stuff, because I am super pale and I burn like crazy. I have to cover my sensitive ears and scalp. So this hat has been with me on 3 different continents. It's been to, I think, 10 different countries. I love the adventure hat. And you can summon the adventure hat if you want to. Down below with the adventure points, you can summon the adventure hat. And when you do that, I will put on the adventure hat and I will tell you a story of somewhere that I have been. Shane equals vampire confirmed. Oh, man. What's crazy is that when I know that I'm going to be somewhere, I'll start slowly but surely trying to build up a tolerance for the sun. Like, I'll go outside and do some yard work for like 5 or 10 minutes and just get some sun. And then I'll do a little bit more the next day, like 10 or 15 minutes. And then I get out to the field and I just burn. I'm so pasty. I turn about the color of this shirt, and then I lose like 8 layers of skin like a lizard, and I go right back to this. So, Roman frontier logistics are kind of interesting because they had to be really resourceful. Exactly. And what's really cool about that particular border fortress network is that it was one big cavalry fort, a place called Qasr Bashir. And it had with it about 4 smaller little lookout towers that were in a big network guarding this one water source out in the middle of the Jordanian desert. You have my marble white ginger sympathies. Oh, the pastiness. I really do wish I had more melanin. It would make life so much easier sometimes, because when I go out in the sun, I have to, there's that much sunscreen on me. It's just the way that you have to be. So for those that might be new for the show, also remember that there are lots of other things that you can do with adventure points. And this is just a way for us to kind of interact a little bit more. I do not mind being interrupted. What do you guys have against melanin? Nothing. I don't. I just said that I wanted more. I don't want to burn so easy. I don't want to end up with skin cancer by the time that I'm 40. Which is a very very legitimate fear that I have. Hello, puppy. We are being visited by the Kaylee Poof. Do you want to come up here? You want to come and see me? No, she's showing me her tummy. I wish you could all see how rotten this is. I need to get I need to get a new webcam. The problem with getting a new webcam right now is that I had a budget, and then everybody went on lockdown, and the price of webcams went through the flippin' roof because everybody needs a webcam to telecommute now. His familiar. The Kaylee is my familiar. The sun is our natural enemy. We must fight back. Scratch the puppy tummy. Oh, Kaylee, you're so rotten. Okay. Wait until the price gets back to what it was. Yeah, but then I could do puppy cam and I could show you how rotten the puppy is. I think everybody that's been here before knows how rotten the puppy is. By the way, one thing that you can do is summon the puppy. If you want to see the puppy, you can let slip the puppy of war. And I'll call the puppy up on stream. Okay, so Cyrus. Big ol' empire. And by the way, because we've got some new people in tonight, interrupt me. I don't care. I like having fun with people. I like telling goofy history stories. So don't feel bad about spending adventure points in the middle of the discussion. I'll stop whenever. Let's slip the puppy of war. There we go. Okay, now I've got to get the Kaylee up. Okay, come here. Come and see me. Come here. Hey. No, come here. Come here. Come here, you big mutt. Come on. Come on. Oh, yes. There's the puppy. Come here. Hello. Give me sugar. Oh, my goodness, the sugars. Oh, hello. Oh, hello. You stink so bad. Your breath is bad. What did you eat? What did you eat? Oh my goodness. So there we go. There's the puppy. She ate camel. That's dumb. Oh yes, the puppy. Don't get me wrong, it would be great, but at some point there are going to be a lot of webcams sitting on shelves. Absolutely, there are. I know, and I'm a patient person. I'll wait until they go back down, because I'll be able to get a much better camera for the budget that I had. I don't want to buy a low grade thing right now that's kind of junky and then end up roughly where I am right now, just with something on a swing arm, right? Oh, she ate my sock. I don't like socks. I like bare feet and flip flops. I don't wear socks that often. They're just not my thing. So that was the puppy. By the way, her name is Kaylee Fry McInnes. Her name comes from Kaylee Fry, the mechanic on board the Firefly ship Serenity. Oh, cryo, not like that. I would prefer to walk around barefooted, or with... No, there's no reason to worry about the mods. The mod is my wife. Yes, we both love Firefly very much. Brown coats, woo! You can't take the sky from me. Love it, love it, love it. Giant nerd, by the way, if you haven't figured that out already. Okay. Need to turn off my boundaries and zoom back out a little bit. Loving the Google Earth. Have you ever seen Shane in the same room as a clove of garlic? Or has he ever stayed outside until you invited him? Joey, I love garlic, actually. When I had spaghetti tonight, I added extra garlic powder. So there we go. Just singing that in your head when you said that. One of the greatest opening theme songs ever, hands down. I need to learn how to play that on the guitar. That would be great. Me, a nerd? No. I'm a nerd and a geek, and I'm all sorts of things. I'm whatever you want me to be. So here's Cyrus. He's got a big old empire. He's really flippin' powerful. He is the most powerful person at that time that had ever lived. His army is ridiculous. His wealth is basically unmatched. He has more territory than anybody. This guy is just... I don't curse on stream, but he's a bad, bad dude. So, there we go. But, you know what happens? Well, you get old. And when you get old, you die. But before he dies, one of the things that Cyrus does is one of the most important decisions that has happened in Near Eastern and Central Asian history. And I am not overestimating this at all. He completely reorganizes the government boundaries of his entire kingdom. And he turns the provinces of the previous empires into new groups and new political bodies that he calls satraps. Satrap is a governor, and they rule over something called a satrapy, which is where we get the stream of the title. It's Satrap! Get it? He's built up an immunity run. He said the title, yes. There's that moment where I always say the title. Look, he did the thing. By the way, I cannot take full credit for that. I was really brain blocked. I had a kind of a massive brain fart all day long on trying to figure out what I wanted to call this. So I reached out to the mods, KP and Mac and Labcode, and I was like, I really need something for this. And KP came up with the beginning of that, and I modified it a little bit. So I can't take full credit for that one, but it is a very, very good one. It's a trap. Hope everybody gets that joke. Wink, wink. But on the very real note, these satrapies are really, really important because these political boundaries that he draws are going to be the basis of the political divisions in this region for about the next probably about the next 1,000 years. And for any political boundaries to last 1,000 years is ridiculous, right? America is not even close to that. We're not even to 3/10 of that yet in the United States. So this is a long flipping time, right? And then he gets old and dies. And his tomb is in... I gotta zoom out. It's in Iran, and you can go see it if you want to. It's at a place called Pasargad. Pasargad. Gosh, I can't say words tonight. Pasargad. And this is it. This is the tomb of Cyrus. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. You can go check it out if you're brave enough to go to Iran. Would be one of the coolest things to go see. I would absolutely love to go see this. It would be... So I kind of have a bucket list. Well, I have lots of lists, but one of them is like the places that I know that I can get to bucket list. And then there's the places that I know that I probably won't ever be able to get to bucket list. This is pretty high up the places I probably won't ever be able to get to bucket list. Cyrus's tomb. Pretty cool stuff. All right. I have talked a little bit longer than I expected, and that is fine. I just need to sort of move along a little bit. Not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't want to keep everybody here too late. I know that there's a natural limit to how much people can handle history. Usually for my students, it's about 2 seconds after I start talking. I'm just joking. I've actually got some pretty good students this term, so just picking on you all if any of you are out there. So Cyrus dies, and his son Cambyses takes over. Cambyses takes over in 530, and he's only going to rule for about 8 years, which is kind of a short reign for somebody as important as he is. So he takes over, and when he takes over, the only really other big baddie out there is Egypt. You know, the Egyptians were still independent at that time. And so Cambyses is like, yeah, let's go get Egypt. And he's in such a position that this isn't even really a difficult discussion for him. He's just like, I feel like I'm going to go conquer Egypt. And his guys, all of his generals are like, yeah, that sounds like doable. We can probably wrap that up pretty quick. And it is. It doesn't take him very long. He actually moves down into Egypt, and he's going against Amasis II, who is the guy farting in the picture here. Amasis is going to die pretty quick, and this is going to give Cambyses the opportunity to move down into the Nile River Valley. And right here at the end of the delta at Memphis, you're going to have to let slip your own puppy of poop. Catch up with the stream on VOD. See you later next time. Bye, Joey. Have a good one. I hope that the puppy walk is successful. So first, Cambyses is going to have a big base here in what we call the Gaza Strip, and then he's going to move himself down to right about here at Memphis. And there's actually a really big battle and a siege of the city of Memphis. And during this time, Cambyses is actually building up a giant fleet, which is something that the Egyptians had and that other, the Greeks had, but the Persians didn't have necessarily that big of a fleet. But Cambyses is going to fix that. And he takes the island of Cyprus up here, and he really starts understanding the value of a floating army or a navy, And this is going to help, because when he takes Memphis, the way that he moves his troops down into Egypt is both by land and on the rivers. So he floats his navy down the river and has soldiers marching beside the rivers, banks on both sides, to basically make a full sweep of the Egyptian armies. And man, he whips them. There is a pretty interesting story, though. At one point, there is an army of supposedly 50,000 men. Now, was it 50,000? We don't necessarily know. But the story goes that Cambyses sent this army out to take this particular city in Egypt, and it's sort of out in the desert area, a little bit over here. And the army is completely swallowed up by a sandstorm, and no man returns alive from it. This is what's referred to as the lost army of the Persians. And there are lots of stories about this. And if you watched any of the Mummy movies, this sort of comes up. And if you've played any of the Uncharted video games, this sort of comes up. But he is going to take over Egypt, Cambyses is. He's going to get himself crowned pharaoh, which is kind of an interesting concept. But we actually have photographic evidence of this on a nice big stela. So it's kind of faint, and I tried to turn up the kind of the contrast here to make it more visible. But what we're looking at here is this is Cambyses, and he's recognized by this cartouche right here that says his name, and he is kneeling in front of this altar, and this is an Apis bull, which was a very important religious symbol for the Egyptians, and it was sort of seen as a physical manifestation of one of their gods, and it was cared for, and when it died there was a big thing, and there was a new Apis bull selected, and it was actually a way that they kind of kept their time. So like in the 5th year of the 14th Apis bull, this stuff happened. But what we see here is Cambyses dressed as an Egyptian with the Egyptian head wrap, and in his name in hieroglyphs, and he is worshiping and offering sacrifice to the Apis bull, which is something that only there was a particular ceremony every year where the pharaoh was supposed to go do this kind of ritual sacrifice and thing with the Apis bull. So Cambyses embraces the sort of pharaohness of ruling Egypt, and that's pretty successful for him. And it turns out that the duration of his life, the Egyptians, they don't necessarily dig him that much because he's not Egyptian, but they recognize that at least he's trying. And Cambyses is a pretty powerful king for a little while, but his biggest accomplishment is conquering Egypt, and that if your biggest accomplishment is conquering Egypt, that's a pretty big accomplishment to add on the old resume, even if he only ruled for 8 years. But Cambyses is going to die, and there's a little bit of kind of scandal around his death. We don't actually know completely what was going on around that time, because when he died, there's going to be a scuffle, and I don't know if it's just your tone, but it sounds like Cambyses was accidentally successful at a lot of stuff. Well, okay, so he was a competent ruler, and I might be shading this the wrong way, so thanks for calling me on that. He was a competent ruler. The downside, or the kind of letdown that I'm trying to get across, is that he didn't rule that long. Like his dad, Cyrus, ruled for decades. And then we have Cambyses, who everybody sort of expects to be like Cyrus round 2, and he's going to be like and beat everybody up and rule for another couple decades or 3 decades. And then he doesn't even make it 1. And everybody's just kind of like, oh, well, that sucks. What's next? Well, he does have a son. Yeah, I mean, weird stuff happens, right? So his son's name is Darius. Oh, I don't need strikeout right here. And this, of course, looks like Darius. It's pronounced Darius, and that's okay. You can call him Darius, and people will know who you're talking about. Darius is the last of the big rulers that we'll talk about tonight, also because he's just super powerful and does cool stuff. Darius has a lot of trouble when he takes over. He's dead. He won't care either way. Right. We're not going to offend Darius. He's been dead for a long time. There is a pretender that is claiming to be the legitimate heir of Cambyses, that is causing trouble back at home in Persia, and Darius has to deal with this sort of pretender to the throne right off the bat. And this is maybe tied into the weirdness of how Cambyses died. But when Cambyses dies suddenly, and it is very much sudden, nobody's really expecting this, a lot of the territory that Cyrus had conquered and Egypt all decide this is our shot at becoming independent again. Like, Cambyses died suddenly. It's just go, right? Just break away. Got to take the dogs out. Be right back. Cool. So when Darius takes over, he's got to fight off this pretender king, and then he's got to run around and beat up all of these rebels. He has to go back down into Egypt and basically reconquer Egypt. He has to go over into the Central Asian territory and into Sogdia and Bactria and fight all of those people again. And while he's over there, Darius actually decides, you know what? There's more territory over here to take. Why don't we take some more territory? Why not? And he actually expands down into the Indus River Valley. And this is the furthest that anybody from what we would consider a Near Eastern position had expanded into India. India had been virtually isolated all the way back since the Aryans began to migrate in 2000 BC. So it had been almost 1,400 years since a large armed force had sort of come into India from the outside, and Darius is going to be that guy. And he does this for a particularly interesting reason. And when he takes over this Indus River Valley, he starts asking his people to explore this coastline. Because one of the things that Darius is really interested in is making more money off of trade. And this big Indus River runs right down into the Indian Ocean. Does he use camels? He did use camels. I don't know if he successfully employed camel stink tactics, but he did have camels in his army. And he's going to start exploring sea routes through the Indian Ocean, both down the coast this way and up the coast this way, because Cambyses had shown the Persians the power of a fleet. And Darius decides that there should be fleet down here too. And if there is fleet, then we can protect trade vessels. And if we can move stuff on water, that's a lot faster and easier than moving it by foot. And if we control this Indus River, we can move stuff from Central Asia over here and down into, Egypt, because we control lots of this region too. Darius is thinking like 2 or 3 moves ahead. This guy is really flipping smart. He's going to have to go back into Babylon. And he's got to pacify Babylon. These guys had started trying to rebel again. And so he brings in the Babylonian or the Persian army, and he beats up the Babylonians again and puts them back into order. And then come the Scythians. Stinky, stinky camels. Right. So then come the Scythians again. And remember, and this is actually, I sort of set this up when Arcadian asked for a Scythian fact. The Scythians are going to start causing him trouble because they're up here, and when he's running around all the way over here or down here in Egypt or down here in Mesopotamia, the southern part, the Scythians go, we can make trouble. And they start doing that. And they're going to invade into Persian territory right around this region here. And that sort of hacks Darius off. The Scythians were supposed to be Persian allies. So why are they attacking? So Darius is like, fine, we'll go fight the Scythians. And what do the Scythians do? They run away. Oh, no, he didn't. Oh, yes, he did. The Scythians ran away. And they can do this because they have these really good horseback soldiers. Run away! Run away! Right, exactly. So they run all the way through Anatolia here, and they run over into the Balkan Peninsula. Now, there's a there's a gap in this area and you have to get across on ships. But they get over here, and here comes Darius. He's like, we're not playing this garbage. I will chase you. Brave Sir Robin ran away. Bravely ran away. When danger reared its ugly head, he bravely turned his back and fled. I love Monty Python. No, I didn't. So the Scythians get over here, and Darius is like, oh, I'm going to get you. And so Darius actually invades the Balkan Peninsula. He moves his army across the Bosphorus right here on a bridge made out of boats. He lashes a whole bunch of these boats together, deck to deck, side by side, and then marches his army across. And so he starts chasing the Scythians. And while he's over here, he's like, hey, look at all this cool land. We should totally conquer it. And so he conquers this region right here, which is frequently referred to as Thrace. And the Scythians run away. So he chases them this way. He literally chases the Scythians all the way around the coastline of the Black Sea before he catches them. That's a long way to chase the baddies. But Darius is ticked. We should run away some more. You can't run away anymore because eventually you're going to run right back into Persian territory, and he had a big honking group of troops right here waiting for you. So he literally chased them all the way around the Black Sea coastline. But he's taking land the whole time. I got to sneeze. Sorry about that. That came out of nowhere. Somebody thinking something about me? Anyway. Darius, chasing bad guys. But while he's over in the Balkans, he gets this idea, like, that is a long, long way to run. He sees all of these people over here. And if you remember from a couple of streams ago, especially the one called Balkan on Sunshine, which I thought was great. These Greek city-states are flourishing. And he's going to run square into them. And he's going to take Thrace. And he's going to take Macedonia. And then he's going to start pushing down here on the Greek city-states. Athens, Thebes, Sparta. And this is going to be the first time that the Greeks had really had this level of argument. I'm a little bit behind in my photos, so let's switch to some images so that I can show you some stuff. So that was Cambyses. This guy is Darius. He's a pretty cool dude. He's got a nice little footstool, big, nice ruling cane, hibiscus flower here. Of course, the beautifully coiffed hair and beard. Pretty cool dude, Darius. But here's a pretty cool map that I like quite a bit. So if we look at this map, the green that we see was Cyrus, all of the territory that he conquered. The blue down here, the island of Cyprus, the Sinai Peninsula, this part of Arabia and Egypt, is Cambyses. And then the red is Darius. So this is his expansion over here into India, further up into Transoxiana, Central Asia, and then here is Thrace and Macedonia, and then look. Basically the Black Sea coastline, because he was chasing the Scythians. But the Persians are going to run into a pretty big army at a place called Marathon. And you may have heard of Marathon. The reason marathons are called marathons is because of the distance between the ancient city of Marathon and Athens. Because when a Greek guy figured out that the giant army of Darius was moving towards the city of Athens, he ran flat out from the city of Marathon to Athens, warned them that the Persians were approaching, and then subsequently dropped dead. Which is what would happen if I tried to run a marathon. I wouldn't even make it halfway before I dropped dead. That's a long flippin' way to run. But that's where marathon comes from, by the way. The reason a marathon is, 26.2 miles is because that's the distance between the ancient Greek city of Marathon and Athens. And that's how far that guy ran. The first marathon runner, and he died. And then everybody else was like, we should run marathons too. We should follow that guy's example and run 26.2 miles. Ridiculous. But the Athenians and the Greeks are warned that the Persians are on their way. And they meet the Persians in battle, and they do something that Darius had not really expected. They beat him. Because Darius was not expecting to have any sort of like organized resistance when he got down into the Greek world. The sort of overarching idea that the Persians had about the Greeks at that time was that they were mostly just mercenaries, and they were these colonizers, and they weren't really, unified, and they weren't going to stand together. They were going to get picked off one by one, and that wasn't that big of a deal. But the Persians get beaten. And there's actually a great monument, and I get to put on the adventure hat because I've been here. I've been to Marathon. 2 summers ago, Mac and the lab coat and I went to Marathon. And the only really cool thing to see at Marathon is a big field where the battle was. And this thing, which is a grave mound. And in the grave mound here are buried the bodies of the Athenians who died in the battle. And it is a sort of national landmark. It is a shrubbery. The reason the shrubbery is in the way is that when you go to Marathon, they want you to pay €5 to walk into this field and take a photo. And I thought that was a bit ridiculous. So we walked around the fence, and because I have tall powers, I was able to see over the fence and take this photo for free. But this is the mound at Marathon, and it's actually quite big. This is a person right here. Yes, it's tactical shrubbery. It's designed to keep you from being able to get a good view of it. Tactical shrubbery. Oh, quick, employ the tactical shrubs. So, we're out of tactical shrubs. Fall back on the stench of camels. So, yeah, tall powers are great. If you, I like tall powers. They're fun to play around with. But the Persians have to sort of go back home, and they're very stung about this loss of fighting with the Greeks. And this is, by the way, in 490 BC. And the Greeks are going to start causing trouble. And the Greeks had started trying to rebel against a lot of the Persians because, remember, or if you don't remember, the Greeks had colonized a lot of Turkey. This whole coastline over here was full of Greek colonies. And Cyrus, when he had taken Lydia, didn't stop. He had taken a lot of those Greek colonies. And one of the reasons why Darius wanted to go punk these guys out anyway is because they were starting to cause trouble. And we're going to put a bit of a bookmark right there because there are going to be some more fights. There are the giant Greco-Persian wars, and this is Sparta and Xerxes, and we will fight in the shade. All that stuff's coming a little bit later. So let's talk a little bit about Persian culture, and then we'll wrap it up for the night. Because these guys are, again, they're big and they're powerful. I don't know if I'm going to say that out loud. I don't know what that is in reference to either. Could you elaborate, dearest? I don't think I want to say that. Okie dokie. Yay? Pronounced feisting. Oh, I would suggest using a Y, perhaps, for the feistings. Because that looks like something I'm not going to call out. I see what you were going at, but I don't think I can go there. Okay, so again, what's up with this Persian culture? So let's go back to the government, because what Cyrus and Cambyses and Darius do governmentally is really important, and it's central to understanding why they were able to control such a large territory when they didn't have modern technology. They were control. Let's actually do this. I'd actually be interested to know. So let's go to the Google Earth tools here, and let's measure from the furthest point here to the furthest point over here and see how far away we're talking about. This is 3,000 miles of territory that Darius controls. 3,000 miles of territory. And that's in a straight line. If we do like square miles, we're talking probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of square miles of territory. It is an absolutely ridiculously large chunk of territory. How do they govern that? How do they hold that together? Well, again, the satrapies are important. These governmental divisions and the way that they have them set up are super important. Let me show you a map of these satrapies. I was super excited about finding this image, and this shows how much of a giant nerd I am. But each one of these little areas, you can see how they're all broken up. Ethiopia and Egypt and Libya and Arabia and Syria and Damascus and all this stuff. Each one of these areas is going to have inside of it a satrap. This is again a regional governor. But here's the thing. The Persians were actually quite okay with picking a native person and allowing that native person to rule as long as that person would basically swear allegiance to the Persians. And what that did was made it a lot easier for local people to accept the fact that they were not fully independent, because the Persians weren't necessarily pushing their world down the throats of their conquered. And this actually gets back to an idea that Joey referenced earlier. When the Persians under Cyrus took over the Neo-Assyrian territory, or the Neo-Babylonian territory, the Babylonians had all of these people groups in exile, scattered around Babylonia, and a lot of those people went to Cyrus and said, look, can we go back home? Including the Jewish people. In 586, the Babylonians under Nebuchadnezzar had destroyed the kingdom of Judah and brought all their males and a lot of their women into exile. And they approached Cyrus and said, can we go back and rebuild Jerusalem? And he said, sure. Here's the deal. You just got to be my friend. And when I ask for you to fight, you got to fight. And when I ask for you to pay your taxes, you got to pay your taxes. And the Jewish people and so many other people were perfectly okay with that, because they got to run their own country. They got to have limited autonomy, and they just had to follow the couple of rules. You don't cause trouble, you come when you're called, and you pay your taxes. And that is a brilliant move on the part of the Persians. They also had regional capitals, and they would move the administrative capital around during the year to different places. And this allowed them to sort of spread out their areas of direct, focus, right? So they had Parsis, the old capital of Persia, which is modern-day Persepolis. They had Babylon, they had Susa, and they had Ecbatana, the old capital of the Medes. And these were regional capitals, and certain satrapies reported directly to these regional capitals. Each regional capital had sort of a vice emperor, sort of a head guy that has lots of satraps under him, an arch satrap or something like that. And this is going to make sure that everybody's being watched. And the emperor is going to move around between these four capitals sort of at his whim. And if stuff starts heating up at one part of the empire, he can move to a new capital and be a little bit closer to that to, confer back and forth a little bit faster, to get news a little bit faster, and make ideas and make decisions a little bit faster. Because you've got to think, how long does it take for somebody to ride a horse 3,000 miles? It's going to take you a month. So if the capital is on one side of the empire and there's trouble over here, it's going to be 2 months before the emperor can respond to any problem. A month for somebody to get there and go, hey, this region's rebelling, and then a whole month for those people to get back over to where the rebels are. And you can do a lot of damage in 2 months. But there is rebellion under the Persians, but the system that they have is designed to be flexible and respond to these things. They're also going to start building roads, which is so important in the ancient world. We completely underestimate the value of roads in our world today. So this is a picture of the Persian royal road. And I know it's hard to see, but there's a red line that runs from here all the way down to here. So this is Susa, which was one of the regional capitals. And this is Sardis up here. Sardis was the capital of the Lydian Empire. One of the things that the Greeks did when they were rebelling against the Persians was burn Sardis down, and of course that hacked Darius off a lot. But he builds a road that runs all the way through Anatolia and all the way down to Susa. And this is going to be instrumental for a couple of reasons. Number one, he can move his troops on that road much faster than he can over just random land. Number two, this is going to be instrumental to his new postal service. There is a sort of royal post office that Darius creates. Cyrus had started up some of this stuff, and Cambyses had worked on it. So used to them that it's easy to forget the importance. Exactly. Like we drive on roads all the time, and we're just like, it's a road, and we complain about potholes. Roads revolutionized the ancient world. And the royal road of the Persians is going to be one of the most important roads that has ever been built. Because when you have a royal post service that is bringing these letters and reports from the fringes of the empire to the emperor, and they're moving more quickly, this is, again, it's playing into the strengths and flexibility that the Persians are going to be able to have. Because they're constantly getting updates. These satraps were supposed to send in reports at standard times. So if you missed your spot, the emperor would know within days. Like, we're not getting reports from so-and-so province. Send a runner over there and get them in line. Figure out what's going on in Sogdia or Bactria or India. Go figure the heck out what's going on over there. We're not having any rebellion. Does this road still exist today? Parts of it, yes. The Romans built over top of part of it. So part of the Roman roads that you can go see today are actually built in the bed of the ancient Roman road, or the ancient Persian road. I know that some of the Roman roads are still around. Yes, I have been to several of them. I took Mac and a lab coat to one in Greece, up near the city of Philippi. Roman roads are amazing. We'll talk about them later when we get to the Romans. This is not quite as advanced as the Roman road system, but it's just as important and used for the same purposes. So we've got a post office, we've got a mail, still on satrapies. Oh, guys, you didn't have to wait for me to continue. Well, we got back to satraps. What was the what was the Persian road paved with? Bricks or anything? Flagstones, mostly. But in certain places, it was beaten earth and cobblestone. And when I say cobblestone, I don't mean like old... like Victorian England cobblestone, more like you sort of pick rocks that aren't cut and you put them in and you kind of wear them down and make them a little bit flat. It's not like, you're riding over your buggy and it's like this. It's much smoother. And of course it gets more smooth as people move over it. So another innovation that they come up with is their tax structure. because the Persians had such a big military, which we'll talk about in just a bit, and because the Persians had so much kind of like hanging on external stuff, one of the things that you could do, you could pay your taxes in different ways. You could pay your taxes in gold or silver if you had that, but not every region has a lot of readily available gold and silver. Not everywhere is Egypt. But you could also pay your taxes in stuff. So if you owed a certain amount of money to the Persian king or the Persian emperor, you could send him an equitable amount of certain trade goods, and he would accept that happily, especially stuff like food. If you wanted to send your tax money in the form of food that he could then use for his army, he's okay with that. He doesn't want you to necessarily have to pay in gold and silver. It was wet outside. The little princess doesn't want to do stuff, so the shorter dog walked than expected. Paying in stinky camels. You could, in certain circumstances, in certain regions, pay in animals. So if you were a region that heard it, oh, did you go find a camel emote? Where did you find a camel emote? And they're even the right kind of camels. Oh, man. Is that in the regular emojis? Fed you and your camel. Oh, they're on your phone. Okay. The single humped ones are the dromedaries, and those would have been the stinky camel assaults. I guess that's where the cricket comes from too, huh? That is great. Stinky camel patrol. Another thing that the Persians introduced is a sales tax. And you were expected in your satrap to keep up with roughly how much business was going on in certain trade goods. And if you bought or sold certain stuff, you had to pay sales tax, which is kind of a thing that's hard to administer unless you have the sort of infrastructure that the Persians built. If you can't tell, by the way, I really like the Persians. They're kind of one of my favorite people group, and I don't feel like they get enough love. So I'm really biased, and I'm trying not to let that bias show too much. But I like the Persians a lot. Yeah. And they didn't do the Persians very good in 300, just as a note. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the military. We'll talk a little bit about art, and then we'll wrap up. So what's going on with the military? So the Persians had learned something from the Assyrians, because the Assyrians had this really big concept of mixed unit tactics, where you had archers, and you had horseback people, and you had chariots, and you had heavy soldiers, you had light soldiers, and you used them in conjunction with each other. Your bowmen covered your infantry assault, and your heavy chariots rode into the bad guys and scattered them for your bowmen to pick off. And you use these really kind of tactical mixed unit things, and the Persians are going to go all in on this mixed unit stuff. So the core of their military is light infantry, and you have your camel division. Yes, the camels didn't go everywhere. The camels are not always present in battle. I know that might break everybody's heart. The theme of the night is camel. And that's okay. So the light infantry is going to be, like I said, the sort of the heart of the Persian army. They're going to usually only have wicker shields. Sometimes they have leather shields. They don't usually have metal shields. The light infantry is supposed to be very, very quick on their feet. They're supposed to be very mobile, and their design is to get around you. Then your enemies will get used to the stink. Better not overuse the camels. Right, sometimes you tactically withhold the camels and deploy the tactical shrubbery instead. The light infantry is important most because they are going to be ever present. You're always going to see the light infantry. And here is a picture of some light infantry. This is part of a wall that had a really big and really awesome mural of these soldiers. And what you see here is a light infantry soldier. They're not wearing too terribly much armor. They have a big spear, but they also have these really wicked composite bows. A composite bow is made by layering pieces of wood and bone and sometimes metal, and then heating them up and bending them into shape, and then covering them with lacquer. And what this does is makes a much stronger draw. So when you pulled back the bowstring, you had much more kinetic energy building up in the bow, which is going to make it shoot both faster and further. So these light infantry and these composite bowmen were able to move very, very quickly and rain arrows down on you. One of the things that they did get right in 300, and I'm kind of ruining a later discussion, is the concept of we'll fight in the shade, because the Persian light infantry and composite bowmen really did block out the sun with their arrows. It was one of their big tactics, this giant assault with arrows at the beginning and this rush of light infantry. Making it rain, but not in the money way. These, by the way, these particular soldiers are suspected to be part of a particularly infamous group of Persian soldiers called the Immortals. And the Immortals were sort of the private army of the emperor. Now, the entire military was under his control, but the Immortals were his hand-selected top troops, and there always were a certain number of them, and when one of them died, they were immediately replaced, which is why they were called Immortals. They had these very elaborate costumes. They were treated like royalty almost. They got pretty much whatever they wanted. They got the best food. They got the best lodgings. They got the best rewards when the victories were won. And these guys were scary as junk. They did not get the Immortals' armor or weaponry right in 300. Upgrade footmen to cavalry with camels. Yes, no. Cost 20 gold. Additional effect. Stinky camels plus 300 chance to rebel. Now we're playing Civilization. Can I break it down and make half of them camel cavalry? The Persians also had heavy chariots, which are different than light chariots. Heavy chariots are designed to not ride circles around the other bad guys, but to literally crash into them and break up the defenses or the defensive structure of your bad guys so that you could then pick them off. And ironically, this is one of the reasons why the Greeks were able to ward off the Persians at Marathon, was because when you did this kind of cavalry charge, the Greek format of fighting was this thing called the phalanx, where you have these really long spears that stick really far out in front of you. So the heavy chariots of the Persians ran into these spears, and it sort of didn't wreck the formation. And then the Persians were like, oh crap, what do we do now? Well, shoot them with bows and arrows. Well, then the phalanx just puts up the shields and forms a little turtle shell, and then that kind of stinks. And then you actually got to go fight them. And it turns out that trying to run into a thicket of spears is not a good way to have a good afternoon. So there we are. I think I have... Do I have any more photos? Yes, I do have one more photo. So there's a little bit about their military. I do want to take a minute to talk especially about their art and their architecture. The Persians are going to become incredibly skilled artisans. And because of the... didn't the Greeks also use the terrain to their advantage? At Thermopylae, yes. But at Marathon, they were fighting in an open field. And the Battle of Thermopylae is later on. At Marathon, the Persians were kind of squared up against them in a sort of old traditional style of fighting across the field. So artistically speaking, the Persians are going to have a wide variety of influences. They're going to be able to see different cultures from 3,000 miles apart. And they're going to start fusing this into a sort of a very unique style. And you're going to see these big tombs like the one that I showed you at... that Cyrus was buried in. Gosh, I lost my words right there. But even the term mausoleum comes from a guy who was a satrap of the Persians. And when he was, appointed satrap, he said, I want to build the greatest burial tomb ever. And so mausoleum is actually named after a Persian guy who was a Persian satrap. But they make some truly beautiful stuff. And I've shown you pictures and sculptures tonight, but I did want to share this image with you. It's a picture of an earring. And I know that seems like kind of a dumb thing, but I can't explain to you how pretty this is to me. Like, look at how intricate this is. This has inlaid stones, and this is an earring. It's about an inch and a half across. It has inlaid stones of multiple different kinds. It's got cast gold. It's got these tiny little fine details in it. And this is not necessarily rare. You see stuff like this all over Persia. This particular earring is probably from about 550 or so BC. It's 2,550 years old. This is stunning work. And this is the kind of stuff that Persia cranks out. These guys are incredibly skilled and incredibly talented artisans. And one of the reasons that they're so good at it is, again, because they have such a broad spectrum of territory that when anybody inside of their world comes up with something new, the Persians are on it. And they can combine ideas from all of these different regions and push it together. And they can come up with some truly amazing stuff, like casting gold in, it's probably about that big around, right? Getting that level of detail in something that small. And we can ask Cryo. Cryo does carving sometimes, right? Cryo, how long would it take you if you, let me show this image again. If you had to do a lino cut of something that size, maybe let's just be generous and say it's 2 inches across at that level of detail, how long would that take you to do? Just as a guess. And of course you'd have to go get like super tiny little tools to carve something like that. A while. Right? It would take a minute. But this is what the Persians do. Many whiles. All of the whiles. But, man, the Persians are awesome. I really, really like the Persians. Some of my favorite ancient peoples. And we'll get to talk about other versions of the Persians. These are what we call the Achaemenid dynasty. The Achaemenids are the first ruling family of the Persians, and they get that name from one of their ancestors. There are also later the Parthians and then the Sassanids, and we'll get to all of those, trust me, and I'll talk about all of them as well. But that's going to wrap it up for me. Other Persian versions, yeah. So that's all on my end. I do want to make sure that I offer a time for questions if anybody has any more questions. I feel like we've had some really good chat tonight. Lots of involvement. That makes me happy. Very cool stream. Well, thanks, Steph and Emily. Other Persian version immersion. Well, you could talk about the other Persian versions, but some people might have an aversion to other Persian versions, and it might be subversion to talk about the other Persian versions, and it might actually ruin the Persian version immersion. So think about that. I'm a giant word nerd too. I just love the ... you win. Oh man, you guys are awesome. This has been a good day. I had cobbler and I got to hang out with friends and we got to talk about stuff.
Stinky camels and tactical shrubbery. Classic stream, right? All right. Summon the adventure hat. The adventure hat has been summoned. Dun 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 dun. Oh, nice. Did you? Oh, that is classic. You actually summoned the adventure hat. Very well done, my dear. Oh, Cryo, don't run away. We have a giveaway to do. Quick story about Petra, and then we'll do a giveaway, and then we'll wrap up. Petra. So Petra is located in Jordan. It is a region that is built up by a group of people called the Nabateans. And I'll tell you the embarrassing story. I went there in 2015 with a group of students and a professor that's kind of one of my biggest influences. And at Petra, you're in this big valley, and you have these really big, tall rock walls, and you can walk up a lot of them because there are these natural steps. And we're going to a location called the High Place, which was a site, which is the highest site in Petra. And there's a big temple on top of it, and they did sacrifices to their gods up there. And I asked Dan, the guy that I was with, I said, how far is it up there? And he's like, oh, it's not so far. And he was lying to me. So I start off at a hoof. Like, I'm going to go up all of these steps. There's something like 2,000 steps to the top of the High Place. And about halfway through, I saw someone coming down, and I go, how much further is it up there? They're like, you're not even halfway. And so I just flopped. And Dan comes like slowly putting up like 10 minutes later, and I'm sucking wind. And he's like, it's taller than you think it is, isn't it? And oh my gosh, I was so embarrassed. He's got pictures of me like, very embarrassing. It was super fun to go to Petra. I'd love to go back though. I'd love to go back. What a turn. It's just the way that we work together. Okay, so let me show off the giveaway again. So last stream we were talking about Egypt. I'll tell the fart story joke again because I don't know if Cryo was here or some of the other people were here. The particular point in Egyptian history, there's a pharaoh who has a general that is being a bit cheeky. And he sends a message to this general saying, come back to the capital and bring all of your loot with you. You've got to give me all of the money that you owe me. And the general's response was to fart in his hand and offer this to the pharaoh's messenger and said, you can take this back to the pharaoh and you can give him that. And so my wife, who is an awesome artist, has made an Adventures in History episode 21 giveaway. And what we see here is the pharaoh Apries here sitting on the throne with a bit of a disturbed look. And here we have the general Amasis, who is farting and giving him the finger. So we are about to give this away. That's high art. So I am going to start this guy, and we should see it pop up here in just a second, assuming Streamlabs is going to work. Come on, Streamlabs. Start giveaway. Okay. At this point, yes. Okay, so if you type !raffle, you will be entered to win this lovely piece of original art by my wonderful wife, Brittany. So !raffle gets you in. And we will give this away in just a moment. So let me take this opportunity to thank everybody. It has been a great stream. I am very pleased with how this one went. I definitely needed the laughs and the camaraderie today, so many thanks to all of you. Let's see who's around to see who we might raid. Kirk Shannon is online. Kirk has some... he's drawing a fairy right now.
A friend of the stream, Neo Realms, is on. He is, let's see what he's doing. He is working on his video game. He and his friends are animating a video game and building it all themselves. And friend of the stream, Cave Geek, is also on. Let's see what he's doing. He is working on a digital layout for his next big map. So, only 4 entries at the moment. I have more people than that. Anybody can enter. If you are in the room, you type !raffle, and you can enter the raffle. I'm sure that the people that are currently involved don't want you to do that because they are going to have really good odds at this point. Any ideas about how do you spell Octopolis? Oh, do I know Octopolis? I have seen Octopolis raid David before, but I have never been to Octopolis's stream. I can go check it out though. Let's see what's up. I'm gonna have to watch Daniel Landerman. I don't know who that is either. I'll give that a check out. Let's see. So it looks like Octopolis has a guest and he's drawing a turtle. Okay. And he has hats. Well, that's a positive. Let's see what Daniel Landerman is doing. Concept art and Procreate. He's drawing some pretty neat concept art. And he does have a very nice hat. Okay, so the raffle is complete. Let us pick a winner, and the winner is the Kyle Wright. You have won this lovely piece of artwork from Brittany. Kyle, shoot me a message somehow to let me know where you are, or if you definitely know that you are going to be coming through. You can pick it up when you come through, or I can mail it to you. Whatever you want to do, just let me know. Send me a message. I think we're going to go raid Daniel Landerman. He's doing some cool stuff, and I'm going to have to be honest. The hat is really calling me. I like the headwear here. So let's go raid. Cryer, you're going to have to stick around so that you can introduce me properly, because some weird dude showing up in stream it might feel a little odd. Like, who the devil is this guy? What is this random person doing raiding my stream? You're very welcome for the stream. Thank you for coming by. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope everybody had a good one. As soon as I can get... Hope you enjoyed it. Hope everybody had a good one. The stuff going on. We will go do some raiders. Raid. He'll be enamored with our hats. Yes! All right, so I'm going to hit the button and we'll get this thing rolling. Thank you all so much for coming by. I really do appreciate it. It has been a great night. I needed the love. I hope that you got some love back. Our stream cry is adventure, and then we will throw the adventure hat emotes if you have them. And I will see you all next Tuesday. And we will do a viewer request stream on the KGB. That's right, those sneaky Russian guys. and I will see you all on the flip flop.